Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Danny.
And I'm Haley, and we are Queens of Schemes, where we call out scams and MLM lies. And today is our first episode of Scream Files. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Scream Files, where we share MLM stories that made us scream. Scream in terror, scream in disgust, and scream in secondhand embarrassment. We're sharing these real life experiences to highlight the emotional, psychological, and financial impact MLMs have on people. Because remember, only the 1% ever see success.
Today's episode will be centered mostly around Amway and a little bit of Equinox and the many lows that they have stooped to keep their pyramid up and running. So the three Scream files that we have all happened to the same person, and this poor woman could not escape MLMs. If you don't know who Amway is, we'll tell you a little bit about them. They are one of the largest and most well-known MLMs in the world. They were founded in 1959. They sell beauty, health, home care products, but the real focus is on recruitment. They claim that you can make a lot of money, but most of the independent business owners make little to no money at all. Critics will argue that Amway is a legal pyramid scheme, but as we know, they rely more on recruitment than actual product sales. And despite the numerous lawsuits and controversies, they're still operating globally.
All right, we're ready to dive into today's Scream Files. I am going to put the stories up on the screen and read them aloud, and we'll pause periodically to share thoughts, concerns, and maybe ask a few questions along the way. So let's get into it. Our first Scream File is called The Truth About Amway. Amway diamonds and double diamonds are not part of an upline or downline. The successes are part of another business altogether. Amway is a business within a business. The diamonds sell books, tapes, and motivational materials. They take in exorbitant presenter fees for those regional and national training seminars that starry eyed new recruits pay $100 a pop tickets to attend. That is where the money is. I've always wondered why some new recruit doesn't just write a stupid Amway the Dream or other artsy fartsy titled book and see that it would get them into this mysterious inner circle. Were
They're
you even
not
aware of
wrong.
this?
Of what?
This business within a business?
I don't know, but you know what I've been noticing a lot because I've been seeing a lot of posts like this, and it kind
Yeah.
of explains what's going on here. Is there was this girl that had that came up on my feed that said, "Listen, I don't want to recruit you. My downline is fine the way it is. I now sell classes and motivational like tapes and stuff to help other people get better." So
Mm,
I'm laughing as I read this because that's what it makes me think of, all
okay.
of those Huns that are like, yeah, no, I don't want you in my downline no more. I want you to buy my courses. These artsy fartsy books that she's talking about.
Think of those speakers you paid big money to hear. My dad scratched his head and said one guy described his jet set life, mansion and pool for an hour without revealing anything his audience could use or implement. This sounds very familiar to me. Most MLMs will sell you the dream. They always have the big mansion and the cars and the trailers and everything that you would ever want. And because they have it, they tell you that you can have it. Remember what happens during those seminars? You're booked into a five-star hotel with an expensive price tag. You walk into a brightly lit ballroom and high energy techno pop begins to play. Everybody screams, stomps their feet, and applauds. Double diamonds take the stage in the designer suit and Rolex watch and give a blood stirring story of dreams fulfilled. All I have to say so far is that the person that submitted this story did an awesome job at describing what going to one of these presentations must be like, because this is exactly how I have always pictured it in my head. You're herded into the rip-off room of books, tapes, and materials and urged to buy, buy, buy. Your weekend closes with another high-energy extravaganza with lots of brisk handshakes, hugs, and love bombing. Sometimes it takes hours or days before the euphoria wears off. Did you ask yourself, what did I really learn that is useful?
I think that's a really powerful question because of the love bombing and these presentations that they do where there's all these subliminal messages of you're going to make lots of money, I'm rich, look at all the things that I was able to do, but they never talk about the tools or any of the strategies that got them there, because we know there was no strategy. All they did was recruit people. That is the strategy.
I also just find it really interesting that they have these conventions and they make it seem like it's super exclusive, but the reps are actually the one footing the bill for the whole thing. So you're paying for a ticket to attend. I'm almost positive Amway's not paying for your hotel. So, however much it costs to get there, stay in the hotel, attend this convention, and then while you're there, they also expect you to buy more products. Maybe it's not specifically like Amway stuff that's on the website, but they're probably selling like tote bags and candles or presenting some type of new product that's going to be in the catalog, and you're going to want to buy that. So I just find this whole experience very manipulative. Maybe it is fun for the people that go. I'm not saying that maybe they're not having a nice trip and, maybe spending time with people that they've met over the years at Amway, but I don't like how it's framed as this exclusive event that you're paying to go to just for the people at the top to make more money off of people that are in the lower ranks.
That's the kicker, is that we hear often that they make it mandatory and they're going to put on this illusion that this is for the downline, it's to appreciate them, it's to connect with others, when we both know that all they want is your money.
It's all about getting your money, and then they also say that it's training. So if you're somebody that's in the company who's maybe not doing as well as you want to, and you kind of think that it's your fault when again, we know it's the system's fault, that you are going to spend the money even if you can't afford it to try to go to one of these conventions and trips to try to learn what you can do to do better with Amway, but essentially there's probably not much somebody who's not doing well can do that they're not already doing. If you are somebody who's already reaching out to your friends and posting on social media and making videos and talking to people, and I don't know, maybe you're even sending the hey hun messages and you're still not getting people to buy from you, going to one of these conventions and learning their new skills and the new tools that they have are probably not really going to be helpful.
And what we've noticed with these conferences is that they really love to abuse of the word training. Every meeting, conference is now a mandatory training where they make people feel like they have to be there. And we both know that this training isn't going to be offering them anything that they don't already know, that their upline hasn't already told them. But they sure love to disguise everything as this training opportunity. And it works. The reason I think this story is important is because it really shows what MLMs will do to sell the dream to everybody. They bring them to this conference. It looks extremely fancy. You're hanging around the 1%. You're seeing all the jewelry and the tangible assets that they've gained since they've been in the MLM world. And they do a really, really good job at love bombing, which the original poster highlighted. They do a really good job at making sure that everybody leaves feeling like they can make it. It's just very unfortunate that statistics show that 99% of people in that room are not going to be successful in this business. But these conferences do a really, really good job at painting this illusion that it is possible.
It's almost like a certain type of brainwashing technique when she says at the end, sometimes it takes several hours or days before the euphoria wears off. So it's kind of like when you said, if you're not doing that well, but you think, okay, I can do this, it's almost like you're coming home on such a high from everything that you've experienced that you're not asking questions anymore about if this is maybe a good decision, because I would have to imagine that if you are in an MLM like Amway and maybe you're not making that much money or maybe you're actually losing money, there has to be a point, month to month where you're thinking, should I continue to do this when I know I'm not making money? And then you go to a convention like this and you're like, oh my gosh, how could I ever think that I was going to leave? Like, it's so amazing. I got to talk to all of these awesome people. This person's got diamonds and jewelry and all of these things that I can't afford, but they did that with Amway. How could I ever question the structure and what I'm doing? All I have to do is work harder. And to
And
me,
then
that just feels like it feels like a total brainwash.
I would just add to that that they probably also tell them, I started just like you,
Mhm. Oh, 100%. And they might even try to relate to that and say, like, my first few years, I didn't really do that well. And then I started doing this, this, and this. And now look at me.
You
I'm
can
living
do
the
it
dream.
too.
Hmm.
Hmm. If you're ever invited to a conference or a training or a meeting, please remember this story and that these things are designed to make you feel really good, to make you feel like you can be a part of the 1%. They are going to flash you with all the nice and fancy things that they've achieved since they've joined into that MLM, but they're only doing it because they want to stay at the top and they need everybody in their downline to be there so that they can profit off of them. What you're seeing is not necessarily what you're getting. So it is a facade to make it look like everything is going really, really well for them, when in reality, it's not the same story for everybody in that business. And 99% are not going to see that kind of earning.
Our next story is called When Your Parents Are in an MLM. My experience as an Amway brat left scars. I feel exposed writing this, that skin crawl like you are naked in front of everyone you know or you peed your pants in nursery school. Felt humiliated by what they were doing, and then there's the guilt of feeling like that, coupled with please God, don't let my friends find out. The fear they'll approach your teacher at school or call your best friend's mother.
I'm already not liking where this is going.
Having to hear Amway's inspired motivational tapes every damn time we got in the car. Didn't matter where we went or how short the trip was, they were on. To the supermarket, getting dropped off at school, and road trips. Oh my gosh.
That would be a nightmare.
I can't imagine
Brit-
having to go on a road trip and listen to a motivational tape about Amway.
and I'm sure that the parents weren't intentionally doing this, but in my opinion, it sounds like they're trying to brainwash their own children.
That's a good point.
Just what we've read so far, what my immediate thought was, we do not talk enough about the experiences of children who are with pro MLMers as parents and the kinds of traumas they may go through because of what their parents are into. We just don't talk enough about it. We don't always get the experience from the children's point of view, so it's nice to hear what it was like for them.
That one rally I went to, seeing my family cheering, clapping, whistling, and foot stomping and singing an Amway song with those dorks. What if your friends and the other kids at school knew about this? I squirmed in my chair. I feel exposed even writing about this 50 years later.
Aw, and the original poster has been holding on to this for all this time.
Amway has a song? We might have to look that up.
A whole chocolate cake, a bumblebee so made for kids we care. Our countries all have a different name. The dream we have is just the same. Equal opportunities for you and me. 26 countries, one company. Equal opportunities for you and me. 26 countries, one company.
The embarrassment of them being in this at all. They want me to talk to people too. They tried to get me to talk to my teachers at school. There were parents' nights I didn't tell them about because I knew they'd spout Amway. I prayed they wouldn't go to my school. I literally prayed. I didn't invite friends over after they gave stuff to my best friend when she spent the night with me to take home to her mother. It was humiliating. She and I met in third grade and we're still friends, but I remember apologizing to her over and over and over and her telling me it was okay, but how it felt to have them do something so stupidly. And they did it to me and my friend. She understood how I felt and tried to make it out to be no big deal. And to her, it wasn't, because she knew how ashamed I was. And that just made it worse. I never wanted anybody else I knew to know, just being that ashamed and embarrassed.
No child should have to feel that kind of shame and embarrassment because of choices that their parents are doing. And there is so much going on with what she's already told us. The parents are trying to go through her to recruit people at school. Parent teacher night should be a good night for children. That is a time where they can talk about the great things they're doing in school and get some feedback on maybe some aspects they need improving. But for this person to be so scared of their parents going to the school because they fear they're going to start recruiting the teachers, that's not fair to that child. They shouldn't have to deal with something like that.
And those teacher nights are supposed to be about them. I would be so embarrassed to have my parents show up to anything to have to do with the school, knowing that they're going to be not just talking about Amway, but trying to sell it to whoever they can get a hold of, the other students, the parents, teachers. That would be very embarrassing.
And it's weird. The teacher's supposed to be there presenting like your projects and your arts that you've created and potentially a report card, but the
Mhm.
parents are gonna pull a reverse Uno and bring all their Amway products and be like, "Hey, you should try this." It is
And then
embarrassing.
they also wanted her to try and recruit people as well.
And based on the fact that the original poster is talking about parent teacher night, we know that we're talking about elementary or high school. So trying to get to the teachers through their children who are not 18 and should not be involved at all, it's just very unethical.
Based on everything that she said, I can definitely understand why she felt, ashamed and embarrassed. I really feel for her.
Me too. Me too. And it was out of her control. And it's unfortunate that her parents put her in that situation.
They knew that too. I never said anything and neither did my sister, but being sat down and lectured about how this is going to help us and how disgusted they were, how disappointed, ungrateful, and on and on and on and on and on. But I just couldn't face being in front of my classmates while mom tried to hook my science teacher for her downline in front of them and their parents, the troop leader lady in Sis's Girl Scout group. The sweet elderly neighbor 2 doors down who gives you and your friends homemade lemon bars on Halloween that she only makes for special kids she knows like you, while the other kids who ring get Tootsie Rolls. The lovely Asian family who owns your town's only Chinese restaurant where you eat for birthdays and anniversaries.
How desperate do you have to be to now go into your child's life, look at their network of support, and figure out, okay, I'm going to try to hook them into this pyramid scheme? And this child clearly knows enough to realize that it's embarrassing. She's feeling embarrassment. No child at that age should be feeling that way at the hands of their parents.
And it sounds like they knew. She says like the parents knew this was embarrassing, but because they never said anything, I guess, and they would sit down and lecture them that it was just expected that they were supposed to be okay with their parents doing this, even though they could clearly see that it hurt their children.
They use some pretty big words with their children, saying that they were disgusted and disappointed and ungrateful. When we're young and we hear those words coming out of our parents' mouths, I mean, most of us just want to do good by our parents, right? So if my parents are telling me that I'm ungrateful and they're disappointed in me, I'm probably going to stop talking about why I'm embarrassed at their actions. And I would probably do like what the original poster is doing, praying that they're not going to show up at parent teacher night, praying that, they're not going to invite friends over. But then it sucks for her because she doesn't get your typical childhood. She doesn't want her friends to come over for sleepovers. She's scared to do anything that involves other people because her parents see everything as a sales pitch.
Mhm.
It sucks. She had her whole childhood robbed of her. And we just read that even Halloween now is giving some sort of anxiety because every door that they hit, rather than it being about receiving candy or snacks or whatever it is that the household is giving that night, it's all ruined because the parents are taking that opportunity to try to recruit the neighbors. I would never want to go on a Halloween again.
So
That would kill it for me.
do you think that the parents then were like going door to door with them and trying to sell for the people that opened the door and then also maybe trying to give out Amway stuff for Halloween or talk about Amway when people came to the door?
That could be. That could be. But just the way that she wrote it here, I'm believing that every time she knocked on somebody's door, mom was
Yeah.
behind her, like, join my team.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Halloweeny special.
And at some point too, obviously, you get old enough that you kind of realize that this isn't really normal because they are going to school and things like that and seeing that their friends and their other peers in their class, that their parents aren't that they're not doing this. So they're seeing that, okay, this is not a normal thing for my parents to be doing because nobody else is experiencing this. None of my friends are experiencing this. None of the people in my class are experiencing this. So it's no wonder that they're so embarrassed.
Hmm.
They're obviously realizing that this isn't normal behavior.
Right. And you make a really good point. And the only time they do experience something like this is when the original poster's parents are around.
Hmm.
There's a common denominator here.
Yes. One night we went to 7-Eleven because she needed cigarettes. Nobody else was in the store, so of course she started spewing, "How would you like to never have to spend another late night working in a convenience store? What can you do but stand there with your Snickers and Slurpees while a clerk listens politely because mom is a customer and they have to in order to keep their job, all while you know they're wishing you and your mom would leave."
I feel the embarrassment. I feel it from here.
I feel like this is the scream part of the story. Like, at this point in my head, I am screaming, "This poor, poor, poor child."
I'm laughing because I have a vision in my head of a little girl standing in line with her Snickers and Slurpee behind her mother who's giving a terrible pitch about Amway, knowing very well that, she as a child is picking up on the social cues in that store. She recognizes that the clerk does not want to be hearing this right now and that she just has a job to do. Mom's not picking up on that. But I do find it very, very sad because it seems like for this person, it didn't matter where they went in life, a pitch was going to happen and it was inevitable. She couldn't do nothing about it.
And see, I'm thinking about it from the clerk's perspective and thinking that was me, and I would be screaming in my head, "Lady, get the heck out of here." It's one of those things where the clerk is probably like, "Mhm. Ah, yeah. Lovely." They're not actually interested in what's being said, and the kid obviously knows that. I would be screaming at how annoying having this conversation would be, especially if you already are not, number one, interested in MLMs or you're not into Amway. Maybe when your kid sees holes and thinks something feels off, you should listen. Granted, there was abuse in my home anyway. I fled at 14 and still think I saved my own life that night, but that's another story.
We don't know what was going on, but based on everything that we've learned so far about their childhood, I don't blame them for making that decision at that age. It was probably a lot that was on their shoulders,
Mhm.
and they had to do what was best for them.
It's sad to see that in this abusive household that they're also the parents are using this MLM to essentially abuse their children.
Yeah. And it's like they're holding it on top of their heads,
Mhm.
which I
Well,
don't understand why, because kids can't even be a recruiter in an MLM. So I
well, it
don't,
shouldn't be their
it's weird.
responsibility either to be a recruiter and to
No,
make sure that them as people are going out and recruiting people for their parents so that they can succeed. Like, it's not your kid's job to go out and sell these healthcare products so that your parents can provide for you. It sounds like it's both of their parents that are in on Amway, so at some point, if you're not making enough money to support your family in Amway, then maybe one of you needs to step away from Amway and do something else.
maybe a traditional job.
9 to 5 ain't that bad.
No,
It's
it's
doable.
not. And I even want to backtrack and her mom made a comment about to the cashier saying, "Well, you wouldn't have to spend another late night working in a convenience store." What's wrong with working in a convenience store?
Mhm.
That one question there, first of all, super insulting to the clerk. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the job that they're doing. And I really hate how MLMs do their pitches like that. It's kind of like with Herbalife, where they'll outright tell somebody, "You look kind of fat. I think you
Yeah,
need this product." Right. So here again, your job is obviously terrible. Why not this one? I just find it very unfortunate.
and I just wanted to add, she's making a pretty big assumption that this isn't something that they want to be doing. And maybe it's not something they want to be doing, but maybe it's what works. Maybe they have a family and them working night shifts or evening shifts is what works for them. So I don't think that it's also fair for a rep to just assume that Amway would be a better fit for their life when they don't actually know anything about that person and their lifestyle. Maybe I wouldn't have felt that way if we'd had a better relationship. This is mingled with guilt because I know their Amway bout was with good intent to get mom the best cancer care and us a good future. They tried to do a beautiful thing for us. Thanks for listening to this weird old lady's yammering.
Oh, I don't think it's yammering. And I'm very grateful that this original poster gave us permission to share this story, because I think there's a lot that people can learn from this, and just how far MLMs and their reps will go just to make a sale.
I think in this situation, we also have to consider what the parents might have been going through and who their upline was. They could have also been getting a lot of pressure, especially we've seen this when people get these terminal illnesses like cancer, where their upline is basically telling them like, oh, this is the perfect job because outside of, your treatments, you're able to sell online and you don't have to go into a traditional job or ask for any time off for your appointments. There are pictures and videos of people that are on Zoom calls and meetings, and they're still in a hospital bed because they feel like they have to be a part of this at all times.
That's what I find really sad about what's going on in this story, is that these parents were more than likely trying to do something very meaningful for their family. They wanted the best for their kids. They wanted the best for themselves and their family. It's just unfortunate that they were heavily brainwashed by Amway into believing that Amway had the solution to the problems that they were experiencing and the vulnerabilities that they
Mhm.
had. And going through cancer is life changing. That is threatening. It could be very scary. So Amway was able to sell them that dream and tell them, we'll help you make it okay. And you're right. They could work around her appointments and all of that. They probably really were able to show that they can help her get through this. It's just very unfortunate that the kids were suffering while the parents were
At
brainwashed.
their expense, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When we originally read this story on Reddit, we made sure to reply to the original poster and tell her that she's not yammering. And we thanked her for sharing that story with us, because it takes a lot of courage to talk about these experiences. She talked a lot about the shame and the guilt and the embarrassment that she felt throughout her entire childhood, having parents be heavily involved in Amway, and the turmoil that it caused her and her sister. What this story did was help everybody learn that MLMs have a very dark side to them, and the shady marketing practices that they take on are very detrimental, and it hurts people. And the original poster is a testament of that. Her childhood, I'll say it again, was basically robbed of her, because all she did growing up was worry about her parents' next move and who they were going to try to recruit, whether it was at a parent teacher night, the convenience store, during Halloween when they're trick or treating. This child, time and time again, was put in a position where she had to feel bad about what her parents were doing, because a part of her knew, like Haley said, that it wasn't normal. Nobody else around her, no other children were going through something like this. So there definitely was a light going off telling her there's something weird going on here.
This would be also extremely difficult to go through as a teenager. Her friends, she didn't even want to have her friends over at the house because of how embarrassed she was. And then her friends, on the same token, are kind of understanding that, again, this is not a normal situation. So they're making sure that they're not feeling bad about it, but they're carrying, that guilt that, what if this is the day that my friend doesn't want to hang out with me anymore or judges me because of something that my parents did? They should never have to feel like that because of the industry or the business that you are participating in as the parent.
And that's another reason why I think this story is important for anybody who is thinking about joining an MLM and who have children, to remind themselves that if you are going to go down that road, that's for you only. Please don't drag your kids into it. Don't use them to get access to the people in their lives, like their teachers and their friends and their babysitters, whoever it may be. These are not your new recruits. Leave your children out of it. Do not ruin their childhood because you're desperate to make a pitch. It's not worth it. And this original poster, who has been holding on to this for 50 years, she has lived with all these emotions of growing up, trying to process exactly what happened to her. It's not fair. And she shouldn't have gone through that. She didn't deserve to go through that. She was a child. So this is our third Scream file for today's episode, and it is called MLM Almost Caused a Divorce. The now defunct, thank God, Equinox. I have a hatred for MLMs because my parents got brutally effed over by Amway. I knew what a ripoff they are, but couldn't convince my new husband, who was fresh out of grad school and thought he knew everything. He had a master's degree and a teaching license, but kept raving about the make 40K per month BS in the help wanted ads. I explained they were crap, and he insisted I just had a negative attitude. And unlike me, he had the education to avoid getting ripped off.
Someone tells me that they have the education to avoid getting ripped off after everything this woman has gone through. That's an immediate divorce. Immediately. No questions asked. See you later. I'll send you the paperwork. Bye.
Bye. I came home from work. Yeah, I supported his butt through grad school. To find he's gone to one of Equinox's offices, attended their rally. He tells me I must cancel my evening training session. I was an athlete. To attend a required newcomer meeting that night, and he was told it's mandatory to bring his spouse. Ooh, why do you think it's mandatory to bring the spouse? We've heard this before. We see this all the time with MLMs where they want you to have your spouse available so that they can try to brainwash them too. Not
Well,
surprised.
they don't want your spouse asking any questions or criticizing anything that they say. So the best way to do that is to have them come with and attend the meeting so that they can be shown how amazing this is too. Because the person that's going to go to the meeting and come home is not going to be able to answer the questions that your spouse is going to be having. So they figure they'll just eliminate all that by having you also attend, which is also a big no for me. Will not be attending. Do not ask me, and do not feel offended when I say no, because it has nothing to do with who asked me. It's a no.
I refused, of course, and tried to talk sense into him. He exploded into a rant fest. I had never seen him like this in 2 years of our marriage and courtship. He screamed obscenities, saying how he was trying to support us, lift me out of my horrible idiot's job for stupid people. I had a very good job in social work. I lack vision, and that's why I don't make more money. I'm brainwashed by the system, all the evil party lines MLMs parrot. He says, you will go to this meeting, and I flat out refuse and leave.
Good for her.
Good for you. She already knows about the brainwashing techniques, and she's already seeing right through her husband. She knows that she doesn't have to go to this meeting, and this is a part of their tactics to try to brainwash her. She's not stupid. She's been there, done that. She watched her parents do it her whole life.
I feel really bad for her too. I mean, this is her husband. She's probably shared some very vulnerable experiences with him, especially if a lot of her childhood involved MLMs. And instead of listening to her, he's telling her that she's stupid and that she's basically not smart enough to understand how this works, and that she's brainwashed by the system, when we all know that it's the system of a pyramid scheme and an MLM to actually brainwash their people into thinking that they can make a ton of money with their compensation plans.
He went to Equinox headquarters alone. Evidently, they fed him more crap about how I lack vision, am an unsupportive wife, acted flabbergasted I refused to come. Oh my God, your own wife does not believe in you. Your spouse refuses to support you. You are going to uplift your family and ensure their future, and she says no to that? Oh, those are some
This is
very strong
awful.
statements. He came home absolutely seething with rage. This was a man I had never seen before and didn't know. We had a terrible fight about what a horrible, unsupportive person I am, how your kind of brainwashed people maintain a caste system in the world, how I am helping better people get stomped on by the corrupt employment system, all the cult mentality I saw dupe my parents into Amway. I just can't get over what I'm reading. The original poster was basically traumatized her entire life at the hands of Amway through her parents, and for her to be reliving that trauma again, but now at the hands of her husband through Equinox, that's unbelievable.
I'm also disgusted with how the people obviously at Equinox are essentially supporting her husband and how he's treating her at home to the point that she doesn't even know who he is. And they're having these huge, terrible fights that they've obviously never had before. And he's treating her like absolute shit. Like, that is not normal. And then to have the company that you're working for basically say, well, what's wrong with her? Why is she not believing in this dream?
We hear this a lot in MLMs where people report that they had to become somebody that they're not. And I think this is a testament of that, that these MLMs will turn people who have the best of intentions into heartless
Monsters.
Huns. Yes, exactly. He says he's been advised that if he wants to be an automatic success, instead of climbing the ranks in Equinox, he should buy in at manager level. It will cost $5,000. He doesn't have
Is that your scream point?
$5,000. That's one of them. I've been screaming since the beginning in my head. Yeah, I'm screaming. That is a lot of money. Not $25. $5,000. Where's this going?
I can maybe see if it's like a couple $100, kind of like turning your head and going, okay, whatever, go waste your $200, but 5,000 is a totally different ballgame.
He doesn't have $5,000. But I have a nest egg from a small inheritance left to me by my grandfather. I tell him I won't give it to him. He smiles a big, ugly grin and says this is the community property state. I have no idea what he means by that.
I think essentially what he's trying to say is because they're married, what's mine is yours. So he's thinking in his head that this $5,000 nest egg, that he's also entitled to it.
This is getting uglier. I threw him out and tried to think of how I can get to my bank on Monday morning and get my money out before he does. I've
Smart
already
woman.
figured our marriage is over. Over the weekend, my sister-in-law calls. He's given her his side of the story, and she too tried to talk him out of this. So now we have
Wow.
another second female in his life who is trying to tell him, stay away. Don't get involved in that.
I'm so glad that the sister-in-law has the original posters back in this. That's amazing.
And I guess I just wanted to add that my heart goes out to her because she married this guy. They've been building a life together. And my heart would have sank in a moment like that where you're realizing, oh my God, it's happening to me again, right? An MLM is destroying another part of my life. And now it's the next phase of my life where I'm married. My best friend comes over to find me crying and frowns. What did you say this company is called? Let me make a phone call. She has a coworker who got screwed by Equinox, lost $5,000, and is more than willing to talk to my husband. Now we're
Amazing.
talking.
Amazing.
I spend most of the weekend gathering evidence on MLMs and Equinox. He finally returned home Sunday night, having gone to more rallies on Saturday and Sunday, but acting more like the man I know and love. He looked through my stack of stuff and agreed to meet my friend's friend. He finally accepted the truth, but real damage was done to our trust level and to me emotionally. I'd seen a side of him I never knew existed. We wound up divorced 4 years later. After that ugly side I'd seen appeared more and more the last year we were married, but that's another story. I still think Equinox and their BS sent him down the road of disillusionment that 4 years teaching unruly tweens didn't help. F you, Equinox. FFFU, multi-level marketing schemes. MLMs destroy good people's character as well as their lives. What a heavy story.
And it looks like Equinox was actually shut down in 2005 by the Federal Trade Commissions for using deceptive marketing practices to promote their multi-level marketing program, and they were operating an illegal pyramid scheme. It's really unfortunate that this whole experience and his involvement with this MLM ultimately ended up in them getting a divorce. It seemed like the first few years they had a loving, healthy marriage. And then as soon as he got involved with this Equinox company, it totally changed him and destroyed everything. That's like everybody's worst nightmare, is getting into a marriage and then obviously having to get divorced. Nobody goes into a marriage thinking that this is going to happen and then it's going to end in divorce.
And it seems like they got to her husband to the point where he's now gaslighting her when she's already been through this. She knows exactly what's going on. She sees him being brainwashed. She sees that he's trying to brainwash her now. He's gaslighting her into believing that there's something wrong with her and she's not educated enough to see that this is a good opportunity. And it's very unfortunate, all this stress that has come her way because of MLMs.
I almost think too that you kind of have no choice but to change your character when you join an MLM, because unless you're specifically going into that MLM and getting the product discount and you are not recruiting anybody, you're not selling products to anybody or doing anything like that, if that's your only specific thing, you kind of have to change your personality, because the only way that you can make money is by getting other people to either sign up under you or buy product from you, because you're not making any commissions off of your own sales in a way that you're actually making money. Even if you're getting a commission off of the stuff that you buy, okay, so let's say that you spent $60 and maybe you get, I don't know, a $15 commission, you still had to spend $45 to get that product. So you're not making money because you saved the $25 because you got it at the wholesale price and then you got paid back a $15 commission. You're still not making money because you still had to spend the original $45 to get that product. So I just think in that aspect, you are almost forced to change your personality. Now you're being forced to maybe reach out to people that you haven't talked to in a long time because you're trying to sell your opportunity. Or I think honestly, the worst part is when people get into the MLMs where they have the PV, the personal volume, where they're required to spend a certain amount a month. So even if they're not selling anybody, they have to buy it. Those are the companies like doTERRA and Sensi. 31 was a big one, where every single gift that you are now getting or you're giving out to your family is one of those products, guaranteed. Oh, it's Christmas, I'm going to shove a couple Sensi bars into your stocking. Oh, it's your birthday, I've got this awesome bath soak from Amway.
I want to bring back to a certain point in the story when he was telling her that she wasn't educated enough to recognize that this was a good opportunity. And I guess I just wanted to point out that it really doesn't matter what kind of education you have. Anybody can get duped by an MLM. It is very easy to get roped into these pyramid schemes. And this guy was a testament. We're talking about a man who had a master's degree and still fell for this scheme. So it's irrelevant if you have a bachelor's, master's, doctorate, if you have no education at all, if you went to high school. At the end of the day, the tactics are designed to lure anybody in, and nobody is immune to this unless you have an understanding on how this business model works. It would be easy to fall into this trap, just like this man did.
And he also had the added benefit of knowing somebody that knew a lot about how these MLMs actually worked from the inside and the shady tactics that they were using. So even with the master's degree and this like very personal experience from his own wife, he was not willing to see it for what it truly was, to the point that they had to actually have a friend explain it to him to finally make him see clearly.
And that really shows the extent of the brainwashing and how it just hooks into people. They're very good at hitting people in their vulnerabilities and telling them the things that they want to hear and selling that dream. Thank you again to the original poster who gave us permission to share this story.
Danielle and I got really invested in the anti-MLM community, reading a lot of stories like this because we saw just how damaging they can be. So, hopefully, by sharing these stories, even if we have one person that comes across one of these episodes and goes, "Hey, I relate to this, and I think I need to take a different path in life or make a different decision," and it helps them, all the work and effort that we put into this content will be worth it for us. I just wanted to take a quick opportunity before we wrap up the episode to talk about our Reddit group, MLM Horror Stories, for people that are on Reddit. We use this group to share posts, but the other thing that we do is for people that are very interested in keeping up with MLMs like Vibe. We are actually following two pyramid schemes in the group. The first one, as you know, is Vibe, and the second one is Des Alpes. Des Alpes is a Canadian pyramid scheme that has just popped up out of Montreal. So we use this group to provide real-time updates of how these pyramid schemes work, kind of from the inside out. We are involved in the Telegram and WhatsApp group. We don't attend every Zoom meeting, but we do take an opportunity to watch the trainings. We share, funny clips that we think they say and updates as they happen. For things like the product pricing, it takes time to get that material and then put an episode together and produce it. So in our Reddit group, right after we knew what the product was, we already had, I would say within a few hours, the video of the reveal and what the products were before we were able to produce the episode. So if you are interested in learning more about this and seeing funny different posts that aren't really appropriate for YouTube, then you would probably really like our group. If you would like to share your story, you can share it in the Reddit group MLM Horror Stories. Otherwise, I also have a link to the Google form in the description if you want to submit your story anonymously that way. And as always, if you like this video, subscribe to Queens of Schemes on YouTube.
Thank you.